Hi everyone, it's Desiree, and I am here with Pink and Main, and we are going to create 5 cards from their February 2020 Crafty Courtyard subscription box. February's theme is called Enchanted Garden. So let's look at what's going to come into your kit when you receive it. So as always, you get your card, and that on the other side it tells you the theme and also tells you what comes in the kit, and on the other side it gives you a really pretty photo that could also become a front of a card. So you're going to get your cardstock along with 2 sheets of 110-pound white cardstock, which is ice rink. And again, your cardstock colors are on the back of your card. So you can see the color palette. So you have a yellow, a light green, dark green, an aqua, a light pink, and a darker purplish mirror card. You also get your 1-inch flare pin. You're going to have a 6x6 chipboard sticker set. Of course, you get your 4 envelopes. You're going to get a sequin pack, and these are great. Now, they are very dimensional, but what's great is you can put, different glitters in inside of those. Some enamel shapes, your ribbons. You're also going to have a 6x6 stencil in a neat mosaic design, and this awesome tag die. If you've seen my videos before, you know I love tags. Your paper pack, of course, is 6x6. It is double-sided, and as always, beautiful bright colors in many different patterns. So you've got floral patterns, and you also have plaid. You also have geometric. So there's a lot of assortment when it comes to this paper pad once you open it. And then there you also, I'm just going through all of the different pages that are available in your paper pad. Here is your stamp set. So this one it's really unique. You get what's similar to the stencil. You get your flowers. They can be layered. They don't have to be layered. Same thing with one of the leaves. You have the darker set for the leaf points. So this has a lot of versatility to it. So let's get started. For the first project, excuse me, I am still fighting the cold. Yes. Or whatever it is I have. I'm going to be making some tags. So I cut out from the white cardstock and also the pattern paper. So for the pattern paper, I used the puffy cloud background. That's what I'm going to call it for the tag. And then for the white, of course, I used the regular tag shape that has a stitch border going around it. And I'm going to be stamping just some of the images around. So all I wanted was, for each of the tags, I just wanted a flower to come up from the bottom corner. For the background, though, I'm going to be using a lighter shade of my green ink, just so that sits in the background. So I wanted some colors when it came to the tags, but I wanted it light enough so that I could write, either happy birthday or to, from, something like that. Usually when I give a tag or I've made a tag for a gift, I'll usually just write Merry Christmas or happy birthday, whatever the celebration is. And then if they choose, they can also reuse it. Once you put that to and from on there, it kind of limits you, or limits them. So it's just one way that I can say, hey, look, you can reuse this if you want. It's almost like another gift. So I've stamped the flower, and you can see I've layered. I used a light shade of pink, which was Innocent Pink, and then I came in with Plum Punch or Passionate Pink from Gina K, just to give a little bit of accent. The 2 greens that I used are Jelly Bean and Grass Green. I'm now layering these tags on top of each other. I want to make sure that the one that I stamped on is centered onto the pattern paper. And again, that pattern paper just gives it some more color for the background and the border that goes around it. I'm going to add some ribbon, and I'm just going to cut some pieces, and I'm going to cut on an angle, and then I'm going to come in with some twine and just tie a knot going across each of them instead of knotting it right onto the tag itself. I'm going to use, I'm going to double up the twine. So I'm just going to fold it in half. And then you can see I'm just going to come around the outside. Now, I always struggle with this. You know, you always wish you had a third hand, right? I'm just saying. Because, of course, you know, as you're tying this, it's sliding up. This is just a challenge for me. Yeah. So once I finally get it tied and get a knot, then I will cut that loop in half. Now, you don't have to. You could have kept it like that. You know, again, it just adds something different. Excuse me, a different look. And I'm going to do the same thing for the other two tags. It does get easier as I go. But again, I do always struggle. And I've got that knot going in there. And there are our 3 tags. Now I'm going to pull in the enamel dots. I like the fact that there's a lot of colors with the enamel dots. So I'm able to just, you know, pull through because of the pattern papers. You know, you've got, you know, the white background, you've got the aqua, and then you've got that bright green. So you can go into, or I'm going to use the different colors from these enamel dots. I do find it is easier to use either a craft pick or my craft knife to pull those up. I always have problems pulling them off the acetate there. And those are our tags. For our second card, I'm going to work with the chipboard stickers. So I'm going to set my cardstock onto the stencil. And I'm going to use one of my makeup brushes. And I'm going to pull in Sea Glass from my Gina K inks. And I'm just going to put a little bit in the center. I don't want to fill up the entire card. I just want to have like a cloud in the background of the cardstock. And I do want to make sure that it's darker in the center and then it fades out as it goes to the sides. So just a little hint, you know, not too much. So now I'm just going to pop out my pieces. So even though I used the stencil, I do want to use the chipboard piece. Got excited there, started pulling things apart. So we should always play with our placement first before we start making them sticky. So I'm going to use one of the sentiments, and then I'm going to use the flowers. And I'm going to choose 3 of those and just see what they would look like. I'm going to place some tape on the back of these pieces just so I can keep them together in the chipboard. So I'm just using some washi tape to set those down. So now we remove the release paper and then start placing them down. Now you could also add a little bit of glue to these to make sure that they stick, especially if they're going through the mail. But these are sticking very well onto the cardstock. I'm not having a problem with them loosening or falling off. I'm going to place the flowers, and you can see I have that piece of pattern paper in the upper left-hand corner there. So it's really bright. But again, that piece is cut to 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, and my white, where I stenciled onto, that is cut 4 by 5 1/4. So there's going to be a slight border. So I just wanted a hint of that lime green to come out from underneath. I'm going to use my double-sided tape, and I'm going to set that down onto this panel. So it gives it just a little bit of a frame. Again, I'm going to use my double-sided tape to place this down onto my standard A2 size card base, which is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, and it is a top folding card base. For our next card, you can see the ribbons there. Forget about the ribbons. I don't use the ribbons. I do use the ribbons, but not in this card. I kind of was jumping all over the place. So here I'm creating my own pattern paper. I'm using the leaves and the flowers, and I'm just creating my design. So I'm coming in with my greens. I'm coming in now with the floral colors. I'm sticking with the pinks and the darker pinks and even into the purples for my flowers. I'm using the large and the small, but those images are very interchangeable. I'm then coming in with the greens. I like the fact that they're stamping splotchy. Now, I will say that when it comes to the Gina K inks, they are ones that fill in. You know, they even themselves out. But because it is so splotchy, as you can see that, it does hold on to it. There are times where I do like that look. And that's only because I didn't treat, that stamp. I didn't, either put my palm on it or use my microfiber cloth. I just went into the ink. And then it doesn't put a solid coverage on that, again, which I'm okay. So you can see I've got the bigger images on the outside. It's almost like I created a frame. I came in using only one of the images from that strip that's similar to the stencil. So I was able to use that individually. And those are towards the center. So I'm going to use my double-sided foam tape from scrapbook.com. And I'm going to place that on the back and again set that on top of a piece of pattern paper. Even though your pattern paper has a design and you keep that small frame, again, that pattern paper was cut 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, and the white panel is cut 4 by 5 1/4. So even though you've got that big design, you've just got these hints of colors that are coming out from underneath it. So again, it just gives that illusion of a different frame or the pattern coming off of that. Excuse me. So I've raised up that panel. I've set it on my standard A2 size card base. Now I'm going to stamp my sentiment. And I'm going to stamp that onto a strip that is a 1/2 inch wide. And the sentiment that I chose of thoughts of you brighten my day. Again, I apologize. I'm going to use a piece of the mirror cardstock, and I'm just going to trim down the sentiment. And once I place that down onto the mirror cardstock, I will cut around it to give it just a very small border around the outer. And I'm just going to use my eyes to gauge that. I'm going to use my double-sided foam squares so that I can prop that up to go across my card. What I do pull onto this card are the those sequins, those dimensional sequins. Now they're like little flower cups. They're kind of absolutely adorable. So I am, because there's so much dimension on them, now even when they're not, even when they're flat sequins, I sometimes will use my glue dots. But since these have a lot of dimension, I am going to use my glue dots, my micro dots, and I'm going to set them in place. Now, again, you could just leave them like this. I'm actually going to grab one of my stickles, and I'm going to fill the centers in. Now, the stickles I'm using is Stardust, so it's like a clear glitter, but it just gives a little bit of shimmer inside those sequins. So for our next card, I just cut into the pattern paper. Let's create different sizes, different shapes. Let's create some mats using just the cardstock that's in our kit. So I pulled a plaid from the pattern paper. I pulled a monochrome, a tone-on-tone piece of pattern paper, and then I chose, a different type of design and polka dots when it came to all these different possibilities from that. I then looked at the solid cardstock because everything matches in this kit when it comes to the colors. When you have that color theme or that color palette, everything is based with that color palette in mind. So by using the solid cardstock and just cutting that a 1/4 of an inch larger or a 1/2 an inch from what your original dimensions are, you're all set. Again, I really don't measure most of the time. I mean, once I cut my pattern paper, there are many times I will just put it onto my solid cardstock and cut around it. Again, it's less for me to pull out, I'm going to be honest. But, again, if you've cut something 3 by 4 and you want a small mat for it, then you would cut it 3 1/4 by 4 1/4. You would add a 1/4 of an inch. That'll give you a 1/8 inch border going around your piece that you've cut. If you want it a little bit wider, then go a 1/2 inch. Then that'll give you a 1/4 on each side. So again, it all depends on what you're looking to do. Now, shortly, there's a video that I've actually put together, heads up, that I actually talk about measurements. So be on the lookout very soon. So I placed my sentiment down, live life in full bloom. I also matted that as well, and I have that going across the back. So you can see I have these different levels, different dimensions, and again, just using the cardstock. It doesn't always have to be a stamped image. Let your pattern paper do the work for your cards. I'm going to pull in the dimensional sequins, and I'm going to put those over the dots onto the pattern paper with the polka dots. And I'm actually didn't realize it, but I actually kind of sort of matched the colors, so I thought that was funny. Again, I'm going to come in with the stickles in the center, and again, it just gives a little bit of sparkle in the inside. Now remember, your stickles won't hold the ball shape like the Nuvo drops or Nuvo glitter drops. They just keep that glitter inside, so keep that in mind. Now I'm going to use the ribbon. Yes. So I'm going to be using the 4 pieces of ribbon, the green, the yellow, the pink polka dot, and then the solid aqua. So I'm just cutting some pieces. I'm going to make sure that I tape these back down so that they don't get all loose and having way too much fun going on there. And I'm just using a piece of Scotch tape. I've also chosen my colors, sweet corn, jelly bean green, I believe it's the dusty rose, and the sea glass in the Gina K inks. Again, it's close to the color palette. I'm going to set my ribbons on a diagonal, and I'll use my double-sided tape to get those set in place. I am going to mark where I'm going to put these because I'll forget. I'm just saying. There's times where I do plan on placement, and then there's times where I'm okay if I forget. It all depends. you know, we have this idea in our head, and I'm always one that, okay, yeah, you know, I was going to the right. Oh, no, all of a sudden I need to go to the left when I'm designing something. That's the beauty of creating. I am not one to plan. Again, I have the idea. So I get this question a lot, you know, do you plan out your cards, or do you just dive right in? I think there's, for the most part, I think it's like a 20-80. 20% I do plan, 80% I do dive in. The 20% that I plan is because I want to make sure I have everything around me within a grasp as I'm doing my video. I don't want to have to, you know, walk away, rethink. It doesn't mean I don't, but that's the planning part, and it's a very loose sketch on a scratch paper. But for 80%, yes, what you're watching here is the idea that I have actually, I guess in a way, coming to life. But you will also see those changes as well. I mean, again, there's a lot of times where it's like, okay, yep, I'm doing this, and I'm like, oh, no, we can't do that. Oh, no, I've got this idea. Again, that is the beauty of creating. To be able to have an idea, or to come up with an idea, or really, honestly, just have fun with it. Okay, so back to the card here for a second. So now I'm going to use my stamp positioner. You don't have to when it comes to this strip. I am going to use these different colors that I've pulled, the 4 colors. What's nice is, and see, thank God I did. I'm a horrible stamper. I'm just going to say that right now. It's a 2-layer stamp, but it doesn't layer on top of each other. So you've got the outside, and then you can put the inside in. So it is a 2-step, that's what we'll call it, a 2-step stamp. I am using the different colors that I have, just looking at where the colors are with the ribbons. You know, I didn't know if I was going to use the pinks or anything else like that. I'm going to fill in with my same sentiment, thoughts of you, brighten my day, and I'm just going to put that into the center. I will use my scrapbook.com double-sided foam, place that there, and then set it on my standard A2 size card base. So again, ribbon, you're creating your own pattern paper, but it has dimension. I mean, it has texture. Texture also adds dimension. I'm going to pull in 3 of the small hearts from the chipboard pieces, and I will place those around my card as well. So this kit, lots of brightness, lots of beautiful colors when it comes to the images. Here are the projects, the 5 projects that we made using the contents of the Pink and Main Crafty Courtyard subscription box for February. And again, this month's theme is Enchanted Garden. So I do hope you enjoy them. By all means, I hope I've given you some ideas for when you receive your kit. If you are interested in subscribing, all of the links and information will be down into the video description. If you have any questions or comments, please leave those down below as well, and I will make sure I get back to you as soon as I can. I hope everyone is having a great day. If you haven't already subscribed, I'd love for you to be part of my group. So make sure you hit that subscribe button. Make sure you hit the bell, because then you'll know when the next video goes live. And also hit the thumbs up. Again, enjoy your day, but always remember what's most important for me. Always be creative.